The Galactic Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from all 17 member species packed the room. Some stood along the walls. Others floated near the ceiling. Everyone wanted to see this historic meeting. Ambassador Alan Carter walked to the center of the room. Commander Diane Wells stood beside him. Both wore formal Earth uniforms with new medals pinned to their chests. Behind them, Captain Paul Jacobs moved slowly, still recovering from his injuries. "We thank the Council for this special session," Alan began. His voice was calm, but inside he felt nervous. 2 weeks had passed since Operation Firebreak. The Council had been in an uproar ever since. High Minister Zex Valen's skin flashed purple. "Ambassador Carter, your people deliberately went against Council orders. You interfered with a cosmic phenomenon we had decided to observe. We acted to save 2 million of our people," Alan replied. "And in doing so, we discovered something remarkable." He nodded to Diane, who activated a holographic display. Above the center of the room appeared an image of the stabilized rift. It glowed with shifting colors, its edges clearly defined and controlled. "As you can see from our data," Alan continued, "what was once a destructive anomaly has been transformed into a stable spatial phenomenon. Our scientists have confirmed it is a controlled gateway to another universe." Matriarch Ilnara's crystal body caught the light as she leaned forward. "The risk you took was unimaginable. Had you failed, We failed," Diane interrupted firmly. "We would have failed trying to save lives rather than just watching them be lost." The chamber grew quiet. The alien representatives looked at each other. Some seemed angry. Others seemed thoughtful. Finally, Archon Vril rose from his seat. The old alien's 6 eyes blinked slowly. "Humanity has demonstrated unexpected abilities. What we saw as recklessness may instead be a form of courage our species have forgotten after so many years of civilization." Alan bowed slightly. "Different paths lead to different strengths. Humans may lack your technology and ancient wisdom, but we keep something that perhaps time wears away: the refusal to accept doom without a fight." Over the next days, the Council debated what to do about the rift and about Earth's actions. In the end, they voted to establish a joint research station near the rift. Scientists from all species would study it together. Most surprising was the Jari Collective's announcement. They publicly acknowledged Krelox's help to the humans. Instead of punishing him, they promoted him to senior scientific liaison with Earth. "Your calculations were crucial to the mission's success," Paul told Krelox when they met at the new station. The blue-skinned alien's large eyes blinked. "I took a risk, like humans do." "Why?" Paul asked. "Your people had decided not to get involved. Because sometimes the old ways are not the best ways," Krelox replied. "My people have lived so long, we forget that new perspectives have value. When I studied humans, I saw something refreshing." On Earth, Admiral Frank Pearson received a new position. President Stevens appointed him human representative to the newly created Galactic Science Directorate. His first job was to oversee the construction of Gateway Station at the site of the stabilized rift. 6 months after Operation Firebreak, the station was complete. Ships from all 17 species gathered for the opening ceremony. President Stevens herself came to cut the ribbon. "They called us cowardly because we feared extinction enough to fight it," she said to the gathered dignitaries. Now they're learning that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action despite that fear. Frank nodded, watching alien and human scientists working side by side. "And they're learning something else, too. Sometimes the youngest child can teach the elders something new." The research at Gateway Station advanced quickly. The scientists confirmed that the strange signals coming through the rift were attempts at communication. They worked together to understand and respond. 1 year after Operation Firebreak, the first controlled expedition prepared to enter the rift. A special ship had been built, with technology from multiple species. Among its crew were scientists from 12 worlds, including Earth. Captain Paul Jacobs, fully recovered from his injuries, had been chosen to command the mission. Before departure, a ceremony was held at Gateway Station. Archon Vril of the Sci-Fi Coalition, once one of humanity's harshest critics, approached Paul with a small, glowing object. "This is the Star of New Wisdom," the ancient alien said in his raspy voice. "In our history of millions of years, it has been given only 17 times. It honors those who show that old knowledge must sometimes bow to new insight." Paul accepted the honor with a bow. "We came to the stars hoping to learn from your wisdom. We're grateful you can also see value in our perspective." "The truly wise," replied Vril, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence, "never stop learning, even from the young." As the expedition vessel prepared to enter the rift, Ambassador Alan Carter stood with Diane Wells in the observation room of Gateway Station. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" he asked her. "From being barely tolerated newcomers to leading a multi-species expedition to another universe?" Diane smiled. "I always knew humans had something special to offer. We just needed the chance to show it. And all it took was directly disobeying the Council and risking war with 17 advanced civilizations," Alan said with a laugh. "Small price to pay," Diane replied. Throughout the galaxy, things were changing. The phrase, human solution, entered diplomatic language. It meant finding a third option when others saw only 2 bad choices. It meant taking action when others would only watch. Even human technology was getting more respect. Other species had begun adding backup systems to their ships, just in case. Some even started wearing protective suits when exploring new planets. Practices once mocked as signs of human cowardice were now seen as sensible precautions. On the day the expedition ship entered the rift, billions of beings throughout the galaxy watched on their screens. The ship moved slowly toward the glowing doorway, its special shields glimmering. In the control room of Gateway Station, human and alien scientists worked side by side, monitoring every reading. Dr. Olivia Martinez sat next to Krelox, both focused intently on their instruments. "Signal strength holding steady," Olivia reported. "All systems normal. Quantum field stabilizers operating at 98.7% efficiency," added Krelox. "Better than expected." The ship reached the edge of the rift. For a moment, it seemed to pause. Then smoothly it moved forward and slipped through the glowing barrier. The control room held its breath. For 3 long minutes there was no signal from the ship. Then the communication system came to life. "Gateway Station, this is Captain Jacobs." Paul's voice sounded clear and calm. "We have successfully transited the rift, all systems functioning normally. And it's beautiful here." A cheer went up from everyone in the control room. Humans hugged aliens. Aliens changed colors and vibrated with joy. "What do you see, Captain?" asked Frank, leaning toward the microphone. "Another universe," Paul replied, his voice filled with wonder. "With different stars and different physics, but we're detecting artificial signals. There's intelligent life here too." As the expedition continued its historic journey, back in the council chambers where humans had once been barely tolerated, their representatives now sat as equals. The species once mocked for their caution were now respected for their courage. Ambassador Carter summarized it best in his report to Earth. "They called us cowardly because we take precautions. But they now understand that true courage isn't ignoring danger. It's facing it with both eyes open. It isn't accepting fate. It's changing it when necessary. And sometimes, only the cowardly have courage enough to change the universe." As Gateway Station orbited the glowing rift between universes. It stood as a monument to what could be accomplished when different perspectives worked together, and when someone was brave enough to act while others only watched. The morning started like any other on the United Earth Space Command headquarters. Captain John Miller stood by the large viewing window, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath him. The space station's position gave him a perfect view of the blue planet he had sworn to protect. "Captain, you might want to see this," said Lisa Wright, the communications officer. Her voice carried a note of concern that made Miller turn immediately. "What is it, Wright?" he asked, walking over to her station. "We've detected an unknown ship entering the solar system near Pluto's orbit. It's massive, sir. Nothing like we've ever seen before." Miller frowned. In the year 2157, Earth had successfully colonized Mars and established mining operations throughout the asteroid belt. They had even placed research stations on several of Jupiter's moons, but they had never encountered alien life. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen lit up with an image that made everyone on the bridge pause. The ship was indeed massive, at least 20 times larger than the UESC flagship Defiance. Its design was elegant but clearly alien, with smooth curves and materials that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light of the outer solar system. "Have they responded to standard hails?" Miller asked. "No, sir. I've tried all frequencies." Miller's expression hardened. "Alert Admiral Kelly. I want the Defiance ready to launch in 30 minutes. 6 hours later, Captain Miller stood on the bridge of the Defiance as it moved to intercept the alien vessel. The ship had continued its path straight toward Earth, ignoring all attempts at communication. "Sir, we're picking up some unusual energy readings," reported Alan Garcia, the science officer. His dark eyes were focused intently on his screen. "Their technology. It's unlike anything in our database." "Weapons status?" Miller asked. "Shields at full capacity. Railguns charged." "Missile bays ready," replied the tactical officer. Miller nodded. "Position us between that ship and Earth. Whatever happens next, we show them we stand our ground." The Defiance moved into position, looking tiny compared to the approaching giant. Throughout the solar system, other UESC ships were moving into defensive formations based on Admiral Kelly's orders. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Wright called out suddenly. "They're finally responding." "On screen," Miller ordered. The image that appeared showed a humanoid figure with pale blue skin and large almond-shaped eyes. The being wore what appeared to be a formal uniform, with symbols Miller couldn't recognize. "I am Ambassador Krell Zak, of the Galactic Hegemony," the alien said in perfect English. "Your primitive translation devices are unnecessary. We have studied your languages." Miller straightened his posture. "I am Captain John Miller of the United Earth Space Command. You have entered Earth's sovereign territory without permission. State your purpose." The alien's expression showed something like amusement. "Sovereign territory? You misunderstand your position, Captain. The Galactic Hegemony controls this sector of space. We have simply allowed your development to proceed, undisturbed until now. That time has ended." Miller felt his blood run cold but kept his face neutral. "What exactly does that mean?" "It means Earth will now be formally integrated into the hegemony. Your resources and populations will serve the greater galactic community. This is not a negotiation. It is simply your notification." On Earth, the Security Council of the United Nations had gathered in emergency session. The transmission from the alien vessel was being played on screens around the chamber. "They expect us to just surrender?" asked the representative from Brazil, her voice filled with disbelief. Patricia Benson, director of Earth's newly formed Extraterrestrial Affairs Division, stood at the central podium. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and despite the situation, her voice remained calm. "The Galactic Hegemony appears to be exactly what its name suggests, an empire that controls numerous worlds. Based on the limited data we've received, they control over 10,000 planets across this section of the galaxy. And they view us as simply another world to conquer," said the Chinese representative. Benson nodded. "They've given us 12 Earth hours to prepare for their arrival. They intend to land and establish an immediate governing presence." The room filled with angry voices until the Secretary General called for order. "What are our options, Director?" "Benson?" he asked. Benson looked around the room. "Militarily, we are severely outmatched. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. However, our shield technology is unique. Science Officer Garcia on the Defiance believes our approach to defensive shields is unlike anything the hegemony uses." "That's hardly enough to fight off an empire," said the Russian representative. "No," Benson agreed, "but it gives us options, beyond simple surrender." She stepped forward, her expression resolute. "I propose we make a declaration, not of war, but of independence. The hegemony expects us to fall in line like every other world they've encountered. Let's show them that." Humans respond differently to threats. Admiral Susan Kelly stood beside Captain Miller on the bridge of the Defiance as they waited. Behind them, a fleet of Earth's finest ships had formed a defensive line. "Do you think this will work?" Miller asked quietly. Kelly's weathered face showed no fear. "I think it will show them who we are. The rest will depend on how they respond." The massive alien ship had stopped just beyond the moon's orbit, a silent threat hanging in space. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth," Wright announced. "Director Benson is ready." "Put her through to the hegemony vessel as well," Kelly ordered. The screen split to show both Benson on Earth and Ambassador Krelzak on the alien ship. "Ambassador," Benson began, "I speak on behalf of the United Nations of Earth. We have considered your notification." The alien's expression remained impassive. "Throughout human history, we have faced those who believed their superior power gave them the right to control others. Each time we have fought for our freedom and right to self-determination," Benson continued. She held up a document, old-fashioned paper in a digital age. "This is Earth's formal response. We declare our complete sovereignty as an independent world. We will not be integrated into any empire or hegemony. We seek peaceful relations with all galactic civilizations, but on terms of equality and mutual respect." Krelzak's expression showed surprise for the first time. "You cannot simply declare independence from the hegemony. That is not how the galaxy functions." "It is how Earth functions," Benson replied firmly. "And to be perfectly clear, our declaration includes this specific provision. No Galactic Empire ships are permitted in Earth space without explicit authorization from the United Nations Security Council." Miller could see the alien's composure crack slightly. Clearly, this was not the response they had expected. "You have no means to enforce such a declaration," Krelzak said. Admiral Kelly stepped forward. "We're prepared to demonstrate otherwise, Ambassador. Your ship has 1 hour to retreat beyond the orbit of Pluto. After that, we will consider your presence an act of aggression." The alien's eyes narrowed. "You are making a grave mistake. The hegemony does not tolerate rebellion. And humans don't tolerate bullies," Miller added. The transmission ended, and the bridge of the Defiance fell silent. Everyone knew they had just changed the course of human history. "Do you think they'll leave?" Wright asked quietly. Miller exchanged glances with Admiral Kelly. "No," he said. "I think this is just the beginning." Far below on Earth, people gathered around screens, showing the massive alien ship hovering in space. Some felt fear, others anger. But as news of Earth's declaration spread, another feeling began to emerge: pride. For the first time in history, humanity stood united against an external threat. On the Defiance, Captain Miller watched the alien ship carefully. "All hands to battle stations," he ordered. "Let's show the galaxy that Earth means what it says." 3 days had passed since Earth's declaration. To everyone's surprise, the hegemony ship had retreated beyond Pluto's orbit without firing a shot. But Captain John Miller knew better than to celebrate too early. "They're regrouping," he told Admiral Kelly during their daily briefing aboard the space station. "This isn't over." Kelly nodded, her eyes tired from lack of sleep. "Earth's leaders are divided on what to do next. Some think we should prepare for war. Others believe we should try to negotiate." "What do you think?" Miller asked. "I think the hegemony didn't become an empire of 10,000 worlds by taking no for an answer," she replied. "We need to be ready for whatever comes next." That next arrived sooner than expected. Just as their meeting ended, Lisa Wright's voice came over the comm system. "Admiral Captain, we're detecting a smaller vessel approaching from the direction of the hegemony ship. They're broadcasting on all frequencies that they come in peace. They're requesting permission to dock." Miller and Kelly shared a look. "Seems we've made them reconsider their approach," Kelly said. The hegemony diplomatic vessel docked at Lunar Base Alpha, Earth's largest off-world facility. Security teams lined the hallways as the alien visitors emerged. Leading the Earth delegation was Defense Secretary William Carter, a tall man with a permanent frown. Director Benson stood beside him. along with Lieutenant Diane Foster, head of intelligence operations. The airlock doors opened to reveal Commander Zoran of the Hegemony. Unlike Ambassador Krelzak, Zoran appeared almost human, except for his golden eyes and the slight blue tint to his skin. "Secretary Carter," Zoran said with a slight bow. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Carter didn't return the bow. "Let's be clear. This meeting doesn't change Earth's position. We meant what we said about our independence." "Of course," Zoran smiled. "The Hegemony respects strength. Your unexpected response has earned you the right to a proper diplomatic exchange." They moved to the conference room, a wide space with windows overlooking the lunar surface. As they walked, Lieutenant Foster observed the aliens carefully. Something about their equipment caught her attention. During the meeting, Zoran spoke of the benefits of Hegemony membership: access to advanced technology, trade routes, protection from less civilized species. Each offer came with subtle reminders of Earth's vulnerability. "We've existed for thousands of years without your protection," Benson pointed out. "Only because the Hegemony kept this sector peaceful," Zoran replied smoothly. "There are threats in the galaxy you cannot imagine." Foster noticed one of Zoran's aides placing a small device on the underside of the conference table. She made a mental note but didn't react. After the meeting, Foster pulled Secretary Carter and Director Benson aside. "They planted at least 7 surveillance devices during their visit," she said quietly. "I marked their locations but left them in place." Carter's frown deepened. "So much for diplomatic respect." "Actually," Foster said, "this gives us an advantage. We can feed them selected information." Benson nodded. "And it confirms they're taking us seriously enough to spy on us." "Or they're gathering intelligence before an attack," Carter added grimly. 2. Weeks later, Earth received an invitation to send a representative to the Galactic Assembly. This was unprecedented. No world had ever been invited before formal integration into the Hegemony. Henry Washington, Earth's most experienced diplomat, was chosen for the mission. Captain Miller and the Defiance would transport him to the neutral space station where the assembly was held. "Remember, your safety is my priority," Miller told Washington as they prepared to depart. "At the first sign of trouble, we're leaving, diplomatic incident or not." Washington nodded. He was an older man with dark skin and silver hair that contrasted sharply with his blue uniform. "I understand, Captain, but this is too important an opportunity to miss. We need to learn more about this galactic community we've suddenly joined." The journey took 5 days at the Defiance's top speed. When they arrived, Miller was stunned by the massive space station that served as the Assembly's meeting place. It dwarfed anything humans had built, a spinning wheel of metal and light that housed representatives from hundreds of worlds. As Washington prepared to board the station, Miller gave final instructions to his crew. "Keep all systems ready for immediate departure. And Olivia," he said, turning to Engineer Martinez, "I want you to record everything you can about their technology. We need every advantage we can get." The Galactic Assembly was unlike anything Washington had imagined. The chamber was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some looked nearly human. Others were completely alien, floating gas clouds, insectoid creatures and things he couldn't even describe. He was given a small translator device and led to a section marked for unaffiliated worlds, a diplomatic way of saying those not yet under Hegemony control. "You are the human," said a tall, thin alien with 4 arms. "I am Representative Tren from the Varelli Confederation. We are interested in your world's declaration." "Thank you for speaking with me," Washington replied cautiously. "Many here are watching Earth closely," Tren continued. "No world has ever declared independence from the Hegemony before integration. Some find it amusing, others concerning. And you?" "The Varelli remember freedom. We were incorporated 300 years ago." The alien's voice carried an unmistakable sadness. Throughout the day, Washington moved through the assembly, listening more than speaking. He learned that Earth was viewed as a curiosity, a primitive world with surprising defiance. Some representatives avoided him completely. Others seemed quietly supportive. By evening, he had reached an uncomfortable conclusion. He shared it with Miller when he returned to the Defiance. Earth is being used as an example, he said. The hegemony invited us here to show what happens to worlds that resist. Miller's expression darkened. They're planning something. Yes. And there's more. I met representatives from several worlds who hinted at resistance movements. The hegemony's control may not be as complete as they want us to believe. Back on Earth, Engineer Martinez worked through the night analyzing the data collected during their visit to the assembly station. It's incredible, she told Admiral Kelly. Their shield technology is powerful but follows predictable patterns. There's a vulnerability we might be able to exploit. Kelly studied the complex diagrams on Martinez's screen. Can we use this? With time, yes. I think we can. She was interrupted by an urgent call from the command center. Admiral, we're detecting multiple hegemony vessels entering the solar system. Kelly rushed to the main control room. The large display showed 15 hegemony ships forming a ring around the outer edge of the solar system. They're not approaching Earth, the tactical officer reported. They're just staying in position. It's a blockade, Kelly realized. They're cutting us off. Within hours, all traffic to and from the solar system had been halted. The hegemony ships intercepted any vessel attempting to leave, forcing them to turn back. Captain Miller and the Defiance were still outside the blockade, unaware of what had happened. Communications Officer Paul Johnson worked frantically to establish a secure channel. We need to warn them, Kelly said, and we need to find out if there are others out there who might help us. Johnson looked up from his console. I might have. Away, Admiral. During the assembly visit, I detected encrypted communications between certain representatives. If I can tap into that network, do it, Kelly ordered. And contact Defense Secretary Carter. Earth needs to prepare for what comes next. On the main screen, the hegemony ships remained in position, a silent reminder that Earth's declaration had consequences. But in offices and laboratories across the planet, humans were doing what they did best, adapting, planning, and refusing to surrender. The hegemony would soon discover that blockading Earth was like trapping a wolf in a corner. They had not created submission. They had created determination. The situation grew tense over the following weeks. Earth's resources were limited with the blockade in place. Captain Miller and the Defiance remained outside the solar system, unable to return home but serving as Earth's eyes and ears in galactic space. They're coming, Miller said during an encrypted transmission to Admiral Kelly. The connection was poor, breaking up every few words, but the message was clear. 3 hegemony warships heading for Earth, bigger than anything we've seen before. On Earth, Admiral Kelly gathered her top officers in the command center. Commander Laura Wilson had been placed in charge of Earth's outer defensive line near Neptune. Her face appeared on the main screen, determined despite the obvious pressure. The orbital platforms are ready, Admiral, Wilson reported. But these weapons were designed to stop asteroids, not alien warships. Do what you can, Commander, Kelly replied. Delay them. Make them work for every inch of space. The first attack came swiftly. The hegemony warships emerged near Neptune, immediately firing upon the defensive platforms. The massive energy weapons tore through 2 of Earth's outposts before Wilson could even order return fire. Shields up, Wilson shouted as her platform shuddered under near misses. Target their lead ship and fire when ready. Earth's railguns and missile systems seemed pathetically small against the hegemony vessels. Yet to everyone's surprise, the first volley of missiles bypassed the alien shields completely, exploding against the hull of the lead ship. Direct hit, Wilson's tactical officer shouted. Their shields didn't stop our missiles. Wilson didn't waste time questioning their luck. Fire everything we've got. Focus on the damaged area. The battle raged for hours. Despite being outgunned, Earth's Neptune defense line caused significant damage to the hegemony fleet. Eventually, however, the platforms fell one by one. As the last platform went dark, Wilson and her surviving crew escaped in emergency vessels. The hegemony ships, now damaged but still operational, continued their advance toward Earth. How did our weapons penetrate their shields? Kelly demanded. looking around the table at Earth's top scientists and military leaders. Engineer Olivia Martinez stepped forward, dark circles under her eyes from days without proper sleep. It's exactly what I discovered from the assembly station data. Their shield technology is based on energy deflection. Our missiles use a simple propulsion system that their shields aren't calibrated to stop. So, primitive technology is actually an advantage? Asked Secretary Carter. In this specific case, yes, Martinez replied. But they'll adapt quickly. We need something more. From the corner of the room, Chief Engineer Kevin Sanderson cleared his throat. He was older than most others in the room, with graying hair and hands that showed years of practical work. I think we've got something. We've been analyzing the data from the Neptune battle and combining it with Martinez's findings. He activated the display table, showing a complex diagram. We call it adaptive shield harmonics. It modifies our shield frequencies constantly, making them harder to target effectively. How soon can we implement this? Kelly asked. We've already begun installing the system on our remaining ships, Sanderson replied. But we need time to complete the upgrades. Kelly nodded grimly. Time is the one thing we don't have. The Hegemony fleet will reach Mars in less than 2 days. Captain Miller received the encrypted message from Earth while hiding the Defiance in the shadow of an asteroid. Adaptive shield harmonics. He read aloud to his senior officers. Engineering specifications attached. Can we make this work? He asked, looking at his team. Tactical Officer Daniel Ross studied the data. Yes, but we'll need to modify our entire shield grid. It'll take at least 24 hours. Then we better get started, Miller replied. Because I'm not sitting out here. While Earth fights for its survival, it's time we rejoined the battle. As the Defiance crew worked to upgrade their systems, Miller received another encrypted message. This one not from Earth, but from communications specialist Paul Johnson, who had been working with Resistance. Contacts. Captain, Johnson's message read, I've established contact with Resistance forces on 3 Hegemony-controlled worlds. They're willing to help, but need proof Earth can stand against the Hegemony. I've sent coordinates for a rendezvous. Point. Miller studied the coordinates, then made his decision. Set course for the rendezvous after our upgrades are complete. It's time to show the galaxy that humans aren't fighting alone. On Earth, civilian scientist Nicole Adams had made an unexpected discovery. Working in a university lab rather than a military facility, she had been analyzing all available data on Hegemony ships. There's a vulnerability in their ship cores, she explained to Admiral Kelly after being rushed to headquarters. Their power systems generate a specific energy signature. If we can match that signature and then reverse it, we might be able to disrupt their entire power grid. Kelly looked skeptical. That sounds theoretical at best. Adams nodded. It is. But I've run simulations that show it could work. The problem is we'd need to get very close to their ships to deploy it. How close? Almost inside their shields. Kelly frowned but didn't dismiss the idea. Earth needed every possible advantage. The Hegemony fleet reached Mars orbit with little resistance. Earth had pulled back most defensive forces to make a final stand between the Moon and Earth. As the alien ships approached this last line of defense, they transmitted a message to all Earth frequencies. Your resistance has been noted, Ambassador Krelzak's voice announced. It will be remembered in Galactic records as a footnote, the primitive world that defied the Hegemony for 3 weeks before its fall. Surrender now and some of your population may be preserved. Admiral Kelly's response was brief. Earth does not surrender. The battle began with a massive energy barrage from the Hegemony ships. Earth's forces held position, their newly modified shields absorbing punishment that would have destroyed them days earlier. Then, just as the Hegemony prepared for a second attack wave, the Defiance appeared. Not alone, but accompanied by 12 smaller ships of various designs. This is Captain John Miller of Earth. His message broadcast not just to Earth but across all Hegemony channels. We are not alone in our stand against tyranny. Today, the Free Systems Alliance makes its first formal appearance. The ships with Miller were a ragtag fleet from worlds that had suffered under Hegemony rule. Individually, none were a match for the Hegemony warships. Together, Coordinating with Earth's main fleet, they attacked from multiple directions at once. "Deploy Adam's device," Miller ordered as the Defiance made a dangerous close approach to the Hegemony command ship. The small probe launched, passing through the enemy shields just as Adams had predicted. Moments later, the massive Hegemony vessel's lights flickered and died. Its weapons went silent as emergency systems kicked in. Throughout the battle, Earth's smaller, more maneuverable ships demonstrated unexpected advantages against the massive Hegemony vessels. The human pilots were willing to take risks no Hegemony commander would consider, flying attack patterns that confused and divided the enemy forces. Hour by hour, the tide turned. 2 Hegemony ships were disabled completely. A third suffered critical damage to its propulsion systems. The remaining ships began to pull back, clearly surprised by the resistance they faced. As they retreated, Miller broadcast Earth's declaration. Once more, let it be known throughout the galaxy, Earth stands as a free world. No Galactic Empire ships are permitted in our space without our explicit permission. The message echoed across thousands of worlds. On planets long under Hegemony control, people gathered in secret to hear about the small world that had successfully defied the Empire. The battle was over, but Miller knew the war had just begun. Still, as he looked at the battered but unbroken Earth on his view screen, he felt something powerful. Pride. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and stood tall. "Send word to our new allies," he told Communications Officer Wright. "Tell them Earth keeps its promises. The fight for freedom has only just begun."